Hey guys, Ryan here. In the beginning, the RØDECaster Pro was a tool that made podcasting incredibly simple and fun. Guided by our community of podcasters, it has since evolved to become not only a great way to podcast for beginners, but also the most powerful podcast production studio in the world. And we are super excited to announce the next step in the evolution of the RØDECaster Pro with the new firmware update version 2.1.0. This update delivers more control over the sound of your podcast, and we've also made some changes to the companion app, which now offers more flexibility in terms of your podcast delivery. There are also a few changes made to the user experience that make creating podcasts even simpler. Diving straight into the first of the new features is a completely new mode called FX Edit Mode. This allows for granular control over all of the parameters of every single audio processor in the RØDECaster Pro. That's right, you now have control over the attack and release of each channel's compressor, the threshold of all noise gates, all the way through to the mix and balance of all Aphex Aural exciters. Having this level of control will allow you to perfectly tailor the sound of each audio processor and therefore give your podcast a truly unique sound. This new mode can be switched on by navigating through the newly designed menus to a section called Processing. With FX Edit Mode switched on, you also have granular control over the RØDECaster Pro's new master compressor. This will enable you to fully control the dynamics of your entire podcast with the same level of granular control that you have with the individual compressors on each channel. Now, we realize that more control inevitably means more potential for things to get a little confusing, so we've equipped each processor with an undo function. This will essentially revert your settings back to the configuration you had when you first opened that particular processor. On top of this, we've added an on-off slider to each processor so you can quickly gauge how your adjustments are improving your sound. We've also included a similar control to the effects menu so that you can quickly turn all of your processors on or off in a single press. This provides complete control over the sound of your podcasts, but if you do decide that all of this is a little bit too much, FX Edit Mode can be easily switched off and your RØDECaster Pro will revert back to its simple controls. Moving along to the next feature in this update, we've introduced a function called Broadcast Meters, which can be switched on by going to the new Operations menu. Once activated, the meters on the home screen are transformed to display full dBFS markings. This is incredibly helpful when monitoring your podcast and optimizing your levels, as each line now represents 6 decibel increments. We've also added a few additions to the Soundpad section. We've created a new overdub function that can be accessed by pressing any of your sound pads and selecting the overdub button. This feature is great for layering different sounds onto the same sound pad, essentially allowing you to create jingles and transitions directly on the RØDECaster Pro. We've also added loop mode to the sound pads. When activated, the selected sound pad will loop continuously until switched off. Perfect for if you have looped intro music that you want to keep playing indefinitely. Next up is a highly requested feature that we've worked hard to implement, and that is the ability to record your podcasts post-fader. With the new post-fader mode switched on, all processing, effects, and your fader positions are recorded into your podcast, meaning that all adjustments made on the fly, whether that's for changing the position of your mic channel faders or for adjusting your compressors, all get recorded directly onto your multitrack files. This is excellent for saving time in post-production, but if you decide that you'd rather record a clean multi-track podcast with no effects or fader positions, this new post-fader function can be simply turned off. Lastly, we've made some really exciting new additions to the companion app. All of the granular controls that you now have for each processor on the RØDECaster Pro can also be controlled within the RØDECaster Pro companion app. Activating FX Edit Mode can even be done from within the companion app. Once switched on, each individual parameter can be adjusted in real time from your computer, just as you can directly onboard the RØDECaster Pro. Of course, the changes made in the companion app will also be reflected on the RØDECaster Pro and vice versa, so the interaction between firmware and software is completely seamless. The undo and enable functions are also available here and function in the same way as on the RØDECaster Pro, but we've added an extra feature that really helps those who are new to effects processing. This new control will revert all of your parameters back to a default setting, so no matter how far you push your processors, you'll always have a clean slate to come back to. We've also made some changes that help to add flexibility in delivering your podcast to different mediums and platforms. With these changes, you can now automatically optimize your podcast perfectly to suit whatever platform you're uploading to. After switching on podcast transfer mode from the companion app, you have the option to select from the new exporting options. After selecting your preferred platform from the list, the companion app will automatically optimize each setting so that your podcast has the ideal file type, loudness, bitrate, and sample rate for the platform that you've chosen. This makes the whole process of exporting incredibly simple and gives your podcast an edge when it comes to audio quality. If you decide that you'd rather pick out your own settings, you can select the custom option from the list of platforms and make each individual change yourself. Also within the companion app, there is a new option to record 64-bit podcasts. With this new function switched on, your podcast will no longer be cut up into 4GB chunks on the micro SD card, but instead will be a single continuous recording for the entire length of your podcast. On top of these major changes, we've also made a few smaller adjustments to improve the user experience on the RØDECaster Pro. You've probably already noticed the channel colors on the RØDECaster Pro are now permanently displayed on the channel buttons. Pair this with the new XLR ID rings and it's now easier than ever to identify exactly who's talking on which channel. We've also improved the accessibility of each menu. You can now swipe down from the top of the screen to access the previous menu you were looking at, and you can also swipe up from the bottom of the screen to quickly access the home screen. Perfect for those situations where you might be jumping around between different screens while setting up your podcast. We've also introduced a micro SD button on the home screen so that you can quickly format your micro SD card or switch your RØDECaster Pro to podcast transfer mode. And finally, we've introduced a small window mode for the RØDECaster Pro companion app that enables the display to fit nicely on a device with a smaller screen, especially Ultrabooks and touchscreen laptops. When it comes to updating your own RØDECaster Pro with the new firmware update version 2.1, you'll see that the process is even simpler than before, as the firmware updater for the RØDECaster Pro is now built into the companion app. Simply download the new companion app on the firmware section of the RØDECaster Pro website, which we've also linked below, and after opening it, you'll be prompted to update your RØDECaster Pro. As you can see, the evolution of the RØDECaster Pro continues with this latest firmware update. As always, remember to subscribe and hit that bell icon, as there are some really exciting new Rode products on the horizon. Thanks everyone, and happy podcasting.